Thanks for coming. Thanks for sticking around for the last session, I think, of the whole thing, or there might still be something left at the other stage when we get done here. We'll stay as long as you guys want. I'm Hardy Tankersley. I run sales and marketing at Silverdraft. This is Alex Pearce. He's recently created SimPlates, which we are about to show you. We've been working in the virtual production space for a long time and trying to deal with all of the issues. And there are two big issues that we're going to talk about today, and specifically around the most common use of virtual production stages, which is driving plates and driving scenes and car process and however you want to call it. But it is typically like the easiest use case and the most common, but is also trickier than it sounds. And Alex has a lot of experience in that. And then we work together with Alex and SimPlates to develop an integrated solution that is kind of a plug and play for anybody trying to set up these stages to eliminate a lot of the complexity and make it easy. And we're going to show you some of that examples today. So with that, I will hand it over to Alex, who's going to show you the cool stuff.
Cool. I think we should switch places.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is
because I don't have a clicker.
Wired. Yeah. You have to stand
and
up.
I got to manually do this. So, what's that? So old school. So yeah, so this is our faces on the wall. As he said, I'm Alex Pearce. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called SimPlates, which is been under development actually for several years, but we officially launched the company in September, and we'll talk a lot about that over the course of this talk. I'm also a car process virtual production supervisor, and the reason I put the car process in there is that probably everyone in here knows there's Unreal Engine and there's video playback. There's really two different ways of doing virtual production, and car process almost always falls under the video side of it. And so I have been a virtual production supervisor for Unreal shoots. I've done a lot with Unreal Engine in the past in general, but now I've focused really heavily on the car process part of it. And even on from the video side, there's a lot of different things to know about with car process. So even if you can do video playback really well, there's also a lot of things you have to think about and know for car process that is unique to car process. The one that just comes to my mind really is the reflections on the windshield. And there's a lot of things you might go, oh, right, well, if you just have a ceiling, even if it's way up there, that's fine. It's like, no, you really actually kind of have to have a ceiling drop down real close to it. This room actually normally is a car process stage. These two come in, and there's a ceiling, and you get the reflections from the ceiling. It's really, really important. So it's a niche of a niche of a niche thing to be a car process virtual production supervisor, but that's why I make the distinction. So we're going to talk a little bit about the technology. So do you want to talk about?
So Silverdraft, we build high-performance rendering computers for all kinds of applications, everything from industrial-grade VR and virtual reality to virtual production, anytime you need real-time 3D. And what we do is really think about the architecture of the data path, optimizing CPU, GPU, storage, networking, memory, and all those things to drive as fast as possible in as small a footprint as possible. So what we're going to show you today, which is the first time anybody's ever seen this outside of the productions that Alex has done, is the ability to take what used to be a huge rack of servers and put it in a very small footprint. So that's what we're all about, is efficiency, small footprint, lower the cost, and still get the highest possible performance.
Yeah, I've owned a few Silverdraft even before what I'm going to show you in a little bit. But one thing that I also sort of didn't click for the first probably 6 months I was using Silverdraft was that even if you take you have two boxes, one that's Silverdraft, one that's brand X. They could have the exact same components in it, but Silverdraft will actually run faster. And a lot of that I think is in the cooling and the voodoo and whatever else you guys do. But they do build specific machines for specific applications. I've seen some crazy ones where one server, not even that big, with like 10 GPUs and 2 CPUs. You were showing me one earlier with virtual machines, and they do some really great stuff. And one of the things too is just that they're good people. I love good people. So yeah, and then the media server that we use, and again we'll talk more about it, is Assimilate Live Effects. So for video playback, there's several different media servers. Live Effects is getting a ton of adoption recently, and in my humble, maybe not so humble opinion, It is the best, it's absolutely the best media server for car process. I think it's Assimilate up here, all the others way down there. There's not even a close second place. And I know that from experience. I've used the other ones. I know how to use a lot of the other ones. And there's just so many features that Assimilate has that they don't. In fact, soon I'm going to be making a video. It started as the 7 reasons why LiveFX is the best media server for car process. I think I'm up to 18. Yeah, but I'm happy to argue with anyone after about which one is the best. And then Simplates. So Simplates is a library of content for virtual production car process. We're going to talk more about it, so I'm just going to sort of skip over this. But we're not using real-time engines. We're not using Unreal. We're not using Unity. We are using Blender as the DCC, and then we're using Octane render engine to render. And we're doing full 16K renders in path traced. And we're not like rendering at 8K and then AI up-resing. We're not against using technology like that, but there is a big difference between actually rendering at 16K full 360 and taking all the shortcuts that other people might end up taking. So this is sort of getting to what Hardy was mentioning. So this is a very large stage. This one actually has 7 4K outputs to drive this wall. And if you're not familiar with media servers and everything else, that would normally take at least 7 machines to drive that, usually 8. One that's sort of directing the others. So Simplate server, which we're announcing right now, one server has run this wall to do big car process shoot for a major streaming network. I think that's about as much as I can say. And so this is sort of it takes this whole 8 machines, all the IT infrastructure that comes along with that, pushing terabytes of data to all 8 of those machines, and it puts it all into one single server, and that's sort of the Simplate server, which again this is brand new. No one's heard this. My business partner doesn't even know that I'm announcing this right now. He's in London, so he's asleep. So otherwise I would have let him know. And yeah, so the first project we used with this hardware was actually here at stage 1. This was about 2 months ago. We shot a feature film starring Al Pacino and Jessica Chastain and Peter Dinklage, and we used our own media server. And this one in particular is 4 4K outputs, the main stage, and again, just one server.
This picture is that stage just across the way.
Yeah, and I think I just have a few pictures here. Couldn't use anyone with the talents, but you can kind of see what's going on here. And this is also kind of something unique that I end up doing a lot on stages. Actually, is usually they put the volume control behind like a room and they enclose them. I always set up right next to the DIT. So the DIT, you can't see it here, but he's right next to me. And so I like to be on the floor. I like to be right next to the DIT. And a lot of reason is that I believe firmly that you really have to make sure that your color is perfect. It's a really important step that a lot of productions miss, and a lot of them don't even really consult with the DP and the DIT about color or any of that stuff, which is kind of backwards, to be honest. But we're there to serve the filmmakers, and one of the most important things to me that I see people get wrong is that they're not working with the team actually who is already working on the color and the image pipeline for whatever show it is. They already have standards in place. They already have LUTs and stuff they like, and you need to work within their pipeline, and you need their eye and their color calibrated monitor to make any decisions. Because it's one thing to look at the wall and go, oh, it should be this or it should be that, and that is important. Color calibration that's important, but that's only one part of the step. So. That's a side note, but this is just another image from the same thing. There's the Silver Draft logo. I bring those guys everywhere. They're also good for relieving stress. So basically, Simplates is already growing from just being a library of content to really being a whole new way of doing car process. And it's been a thing for me recently. I've shot at a few different stages. And I've run into hardware limitations, and I've run into problems where, oh, we actually don't support that. We don't use that software here. And so I basically have okay, well now we're basically a technology platform because we're going to provide the hardware, we're going to provide the content, And the things that we can do, which I'll get into later, I'm getting ahead of myself, it's totally different than what everyone else is able to do in the space. And so it's more than just the content. I've got a video here.
Hi, I'm Alex Pearce,
that's me.
the CEO and founder of SimPlates, and I'm also a virtual production supervisor. So I know firsthand the challenges of traditionally captured plates. SimPlates is a library of 360 photoreal CG renders made specifically for shooting car process on virtual production stages. And here are the top 7 reasons that you should use SimPlates for virtual production.
Accidentally skipped it. Just trying to get rid of the bar there.
Hi,
Hey,
I'm
another
Alex.
guy.
Made specific you should use SimPlates for virtual production. Number 1, very high quality. We create our CG video plates with Blender and Octane render engine, which allow for much higher quality than real-time game engines. Octane is an unbiased render engine, and we leverage their cloud render solution, the Render Network, to render at a staggering 16K resolution, which is the max that most media servers can play back. All of our plates meet or exceed the Netflix standards for virtual production. Number 2, 360 panoramic and seamless. Most camera rigs will have problematic seams where the cameras meet, and if a 360 camera is used, the quality is likely to suffer. You can turn our plates all the way around, you can shoot in every direction, and you will never see a seam. Number 3, looping. Most of our sim plates loop seamlessly, so you never see a cut point. Here is the end of the plate, and there was the beginning. So you can shoot on this plate all day long and you would never see a cut point. Oftentimes, with traditional footage, actors will be right in the middle of a take, and we'll get to the end of the footage, it's going to cut and loop back to the beginning, and it will ruin that take. You'll have to do it all over again. Traditionally shot plates are very difficult to stabilize properly. When shooting on a virtual production stage, even the slightest bump can make the whole thing feel like very bad rear projection. All of our plates are fully stabilized. Number 5, no liability. Because we control every pixel in our library, you don't have to worry about getting release forms for pedestrians that walk by, and you don't have to worry about being sued by brands that just happen to be in the background when you were out filming. Number 6, customization. We can very easily customize our plates. If you want to change the lighting, go twice as fast and have half the cars, we can do that. If you want to shoot something in the 1700s or set in the future, that's possible. If you need something that's not in our library, we can likely make it faster and more cost-effective than it would be to have a company go out and shoot it, especially if it's dangerous, exotic, or set in a different time period. And number 7, live compositing. This is a service I provide on demand, but we can actually live composite if the stage uses Assimilate live effects. This means I can swap out the sky, I can color the foreground separately from the background, I can use the Z-depth pass to defocus the background, I can use a Cryptomatte to change a specific material, and more. I can also rent or build you the ultimate car process media server for your project or for your stage. All right, that's the top 7 reasons to use SimPlates for virtual production. Which one is your favorite reason?
It's so weird watching myself in front of a stage.
Sounds like, yeah, good performance though. Yeah. Is that the first take?
Yes, of course. Oh, yeah, seamless, yes.
Seamless, literally.
See what we did there. Yeah, so this is just it's going to play some of our content. It's going to move in a circle. They're all 360. So yeah, so this obviously is if you know anything about car process, if you know anything about shooting in virtual production, this is very disruptive technology, to be honest. And I really feel strongly, obviously I'm biased, but I feel very strongly that it's really the best of both worlds. And it's the best hybrid between live action captured and real time. I don't think that it's going to completely replace live action plates. I actually am working with other plate companies, specifically Plate Pros. I love what they're doing. We're working together. We're actually going to be adding CG objects to their captured footage. So I don't think that it's going to completely replace live action. And there will absolutely be shots that need to be real-time rendered, but those are the real-time ones are very few and far between. And a lot of times these productions, when they need car process, it's like, oh, we're shooting in a week. We need to do this thing next week. And so the common process is a PA or a producer goes online and tries to find something that's already created and then make it work with their stage. But we recently shot our first project, what I'm calling the first real project. We've shot a few things, but we did a Hyundai commercial, and I do have some behind the scenes from that. And it was great because we took one of our existing library plates, and they had some very minor adjustments. We made some changes, but we had one that we had to create from scratch. That was like, this scene, we need to be able to drive really fast on a highway, come to like a quick stop, and we need it to stay 100% still because we're also going to be doing VFX. So we're going to stay 100% still for 1 minute, and then we need to drive off again. And so we did that, and it wasn't until this morning actually where I was thinking about that would almost be impossible to shoot without shutting down an entire highway and getting a bunch of cars, because that's not one of those plates you can really steal. If you took a camera car, and I don't know if you've seen them, they're like little 3-wheel motorcycles with cameras that can, because getting the height of that is very difficult. So you have this crazy looking vehicle. So if you tried to steal that on the highway, everyone who passes by you is going to be looking at the cameras. And because they're not moving fast, there won't even be motion blur. And so that plate, at the time I was like, oh, okay, sure, no problem. And it's like, yeah, whatever. But at the time I was like, actually this is actually a really good use case of like using sim plates, because this would be next to impossible to do without spending 6 figures and then all the headaches that go in with that. And then they probably wouldn't have had the time to do that. So.
And when you talk about like sci-fi and period stuff, like,
Yeah.
You block off the street, rent a bunch of period
Right.
cars, park them on the street,
Oh, yeah.
that gets very expensive very fast.
Yeah, yep. These are just some shots that we used that we shot with our plates in the background. And yeah, I'll just this one I didn't think this was going to work. When this was like the first thing we shot, and I was like, I don't know, this motorcycle, like, and it turned out really well. And also like the sci-fi city that we used, it was like I wasn't really happy with it, but for what they wanted, it was really perfect. I have a few little behind the scenes shots from that. So and then I'll show you a little bit. There's a short video clip from the shoot we did just two days ago. So there's a lot with car process. There's so many things you got to think about. It's pretty wild. And then so we did also we use image-based lighting a lot as well, and we use the Kino Flow Mimic a lot, and also the Quasar Science. They have double rainbow tubes. They're really fantastic lights. And that image-based lighting, especially with car process, when you want to light an actor's face and there's like dappled lights through the trees, it becomes really important. All right, and then this is just a short video clip from the shoot we did just a few days ago. This was at Orbital Studios, so they're in downtown. They actually have a Christmas party tonight. If anyone's going, I'll be there. But this is a similar stage to this. In this room, they normally have stages on either side. So yeah, so the content, the actress there, who's also a producer, she gave me the best compliment anyone could ever give me. She was like, "Who filmed this footage?" When she was in there. She's like, "Who filmed this footage? It's really nice." and I said, "Oh, I did." And she's like, "Where did you film it?" I was like, "Well, where do you think I filmed it? What does it look like to you?" She's like, "Well, I'm from Texas, and it looks like this, like kind of like southeast Texas, where there's the wooded areas." And it's like, "Cool." It's like, this is all CG.
It's in the metaverse.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
We shot it in the metaverse.
Yeah, so this sounds very cliche, and we'll start wars, I'm sure, very soon. But it's something that I've been thinking a lot about, and I think that this is the most disruptive thing for virtual production since Unreal Engine. I really do. I think that the way people have been doing car process for the last 6-7 years, LED walls with other media servers. It's the way that we're doing it, not just the content side, but the live color grading stuff we're doing with Assimilate, with the hardware that we're using that brings the cost down. I think it's actually a really big deal. So obviously I'm biased and totally happy to argue with anyone afterwards on that note. And on that note, do we have any questions?
Yeah, Chris, do you want to see if any...
Hold on, Tom. Hold on. We got it. It's not just you here. It's everybody and
For the record.
In rendering, do you render out like Rec 2020, so you have HDR, full dynamic range?
So the question is, what color space do we render in? So in Octane Render Engine, we render with EXR sequences, and they're sRGB scene linear. And then when we do the compositing, we transcode to Notch LC at Rec 2020 PQ, and that's sort of our standard. From there we can do anything the stage needs if they need something else, but that's sort of our standard pipeline. Yeah, great question. And
Anyone else?
questions?
I
Plenty
also
of
wanted
time.
to rant on the copyright issue too. Like I found out recently, apparently, if you shoot the Eiffel Tower at night, the light pattern that it does on the Eiffel Tower is copyrighted by the French state, and they will come after you. If you have anything that has the Eiffel Tower with lights on it, they will come after you.
Wow.
And so you have to like either paint them out or do something. Yeah. So yeah, the Eiffel Tower at night is a problem. But yeah, to your point, when you're shooting out in public, you're capturing all kinds of stuff that
Yeah.
you never know who's going to come after you, and that makes the lawyers nervous.
Yeah, and typically the way that works is that there is fair use. If you're shooting on a road, there are laws that sort of protect, like, you can go film these things. But it's still, depending on what it is, it still might have, especially at a studio level, they still might have to have a clearance team go through it and clear anything. Even if it's going to be blurry and out there, it can, just from what I've learned from friends in the industry, it can be a problem.
Yeah, is that a McDonald's back there? Yeah, have we cleared it with them?
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody else?
Anyone else? Oh, sure.
More.
Sorry.
Okay.
Perfectly fine, Tom. As many times as you want it. Here we go.
Okay, so these are all pretty much empty scenes. Well, cars driving, but have you done ones with people walking around?
Yeah. So great question. We have a city plate that we're going to be finishing in the next probably 2 weeks. That have people in them. They're all scanned people, animated, and unlike, so if you guys have used Unreal, the city sample, we kind of have like our own sort of city sample that we'll use for internal use. But the city sample, the people that are in there, the animation is AI. So if you've ever used it, it's like you're just kind of hoping that the people do what they're supposed to do. They'll run into each other. They'll walk into the street. They'll do some weird stuff. So our people don't do that. All of our stuff, a big part of our IP is actually all the internal tools we've built. So we use all these procedural tools in Blender. And so the people that we have a whole city generator, a plate generator. We have all these different things that we can procedurally create these cities. And same with people and cars. So traffic is all procedurally generated. The cars will come to a stop. They'll sit at a red light. They'll turn, when it turns green, they'll turn left. And we have the same with people. And the people will avoid each other. So if there's two people and they're about to walk into each other, they'll move on. But the people are all scanned, high quality scanned people. And so they look really good. They look really
Like
good.
a metahuman.
Luckily, for the most part, all that, there's a lot of stuff that's motion blur if you're driving really fast. But city is tricky because you come to a stop and you need those to be really high quality. You can't get away with anything. If you see a person, it needs to look like a person.
What about things like with somebody turning a corner? How do you synchronize with the wheel? Is there any kind of built-in interactivity with the wheel?
That's actually a great question as well. So it turns out it's funny because when we first started building the library, we went through different iterations. When we were first trying to figure out how to do looping so that it would loop seamlessly and you'd never have a cut point, the first one we did was just took 4 rights. But then you were constantly turning right. And so I was like, oh, we should just have this drive straight forever. And that's what we'll just start there and then we'll go, whatever. Turns out that like a lot of people actually want that. Like when you're actually going to shoot, and if you watch any TV show tonight, any movie tonight, you just watch. And the car is going to turn around a bend and the driver's going to be doing this. And it is hard. It is hard for actors, whether there's an LED screen behind them and they have a confidence monitor, whether they're being towed by a trailer or otherwise. Like, it's hard to really focus on all your lines, doing the performance, and then also like turn the correct direction and focus on all those things. So it actually turns out that most people prefer to actually just keep going straight. And even in suburban neighborhoods, our suburban plate just sort of like blows through. It just doesn't really stop. And I was like, oh, we need to build in stop signs. And they're like, actually, a customer just asked us, like, can you shoot this plate where you just drive straight and you don't run, there's no steep speed bumps and you just blow, and it's like, no, we can't do that. And it's like, okay. But to your point about, could we have it sort of synchronized and like, could it turn and stuff? There are tools that you can. There's like a motion base that you could like take real footage, even track it, and then it will do what the car is actually doing or the plate's doing. But by and large, a lot of that stuff is unnecessary. If the script calls for a right turn, okay, sure. But if it's, and sometimes they do. It's like, oh,
Very
we got to
important
take
to the
this
story
thing,
that we turn right here. Yes.
I mean, I could easily see a storyline where you need some kind of interactivity.
For sure.
Remember when I borrowed your
Yes.
steering wheel? It
Yeah.
was to do that sort of thing without
Yeah.
the quality,
I think
obviously, but to,
it would to time it. It would be up to the actor. They would time it. It would just be like anything else. Okay, here's your confidence monitor. You can see where you're driving, and because we render 360, they can see the road in front of them, and so they would just have to time it and go, okay, we're turning right. Okay, let's practice that again. Let's practice that again until it looks right. So, yeah, it wouldn't be interactive. They wouldn't drive around.
All right, so I have a question then. When did the decision to make, what was behind the decision to use the Otoy renderer Octane as opposed to anything else?
It's a great question. So I have a background in lots of things. I have some OG friends from the 360 world. Shout out to 360 video. And so I've been doing 360 video for over 10 years, on and off. And I've done lots of different, I've used Unity, I've used Unreal, I've used Blender Cycles, I've used Maya, I've used all these different ones. And I used Octane early on, a long time ago, for VR to do light baking. So I knew a lot about Octane. One of the things I love about Octane is it's very photorealistic out of the box. It's spectrally correct, unbiased render engine, and so and specifically motion blur, which is extremely important for car process. Motion blur needs to look real; it can't be faked. And so when I first started SimPlates, or before I even had the name, when I was first building it, it was Unreal Engine. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this all in Unreal Engine, and we'll have procedural this, and we'll do this, and we'll be able to change this, change that. And I realized, well, we could only do it on a very small scale for it to work. And every stage that uses Unreal, every stage is a science experiment. Everyone has a different pipeline, and even if they have the same software, like bringing in what we're doing to a stage would be like, we're gonna have to like recreate the wheel every time. And so then I was like, okay, well, let's pre-render these. And first I tried Unreal, lots of problems there. And then I went down, I tried a few different pipelines. I tried Chaos, they have their new Vantage, like real-time engine. I tried all these different tools, and Octane was by far the best. And it yielded the best results in terms of photorealness. The motion blur, which again was for me very important, that it did that. 360 seamless, it did that. Some of these other ones don't, or if you add certain things like motion blur, it breaks the 360. And then one of the other ones that really was key was the cloud rendering. So with Octane, they have their own cloud rendering solution called the Render Network. And now it actually works with Redshift, it works with Cycles, it works with different render engines. But obviously they built it with Octane first. And so with that, we can render, we have done this, don't recommend it, but we did for one shoot, the morning of the shoot, we made some changes. We sent it to the cloud, 16K, rendered, 1,440 frames, downloaded it, composited it, and then we were shooting on that plate in the afternoon. And for reference, like that plate at 16K probably would take months on a single machine. So for us to be able to leverage their cloud service was really important, that we had a solid, not just cloud render solution, but also they have a whole pipeline of like being able to download the frames as they're rendered, and it was a really important thing for us. It was like when we get these custom jobs, we need to be able to just, let it rip.
You didn't have a civil draft machine on set?
We have talked about it. And I've called Hardy. We've had these conversations that there probably will be places that need them on-prem, and like, and or that don't want to use the render network and other things. And that is a possibility. We could put, they have a machine that has 10 GPUs in it. We could have 10 of those, and we could do something like that. We might one day do something like that, but I think for the most part, I strongly believe in using the right tool for the right job, and that they had all this infrastructure already built in. So
the only thing I would say about that is that crazy morning to afternoon at that.
Yeah.
Don't try this at home.
No. It's not something I typically advertise publicly. When I'm talking to producers, I don't say that that's something we can do.
I would never. Yeah, you're right. I would never even admit to that publicly. But okay. Is there any other questions? Great. Well, that's the end of it. And I think I can speak for Jess, Lauren, and Eric Giesler, and everyone else involved in putting this on. I've appreciated all of your attendance and all the knowledge base that's come in. Let's give a big round of applause for Alex and Hardy Tankersley. And let's give a big hands up for Ben and Nick over here on the boards, and for our camera crew. And hopefully we'll see you again next year. Thanks for coming.